a life filled with endless responsibilities, constant deadlines, and little time to breathe. This was Sarah's world, a 38-year-old mother of two and a project manager at a fast-paced company. She was the kind of person who thrived on multitasking, always juggling work presentations, soccer practices, and late-night email responses. To everyone around her, Sarah was the epitome of strength and capability, but beneath the surface, cracks were forming. Her day started before the sun rose, a quick cup of black coffee, and barely a moment to sit before rushing out the door. Breakfast was an afterthought. Lunch was often skipped, and dinner? That was usually a microwave meal eaten while scrolling through work emails. Her health was something she avoided thinking about. Regular checkups? Too time-consuming. Balanced meals? Who had the energy? She told herself she was too busy to worry about minor discomforts like the random tightness in her chest or the fatigue that seemed to hang over her like a cloud. "I'll deal with it later," she'd say. Her family often expressed concern. Her husband noticed her irritability and exhaustion, and her kids would ask why she always seemed tired. But Sarah brushed it all off, claiming, "It's just work stress. I'm fine." The signs had been there for weeks, subtle at first. Sarah would occasionally feel lightheaded during meetings or find herself short of breath after climbing the stairs. There were moments when her heart seemed to flutter, as though trying to grab her attention. One evening, she was watching her son's soccer game when a strange wave of dizziness washed over her. For a brief moment, the world spun, and she gripped the bench to steady herself. Her husband suggested she see a doctor, but Sarah laughed it off. "I'm just dehydrated," she replied, sipping from a bottle of water. The weekend before the event, she was folding laundry when a sharp pain radiated through her chest and down her left arm. It lasted only a few seconds, but it left her shaken. Still, she dismissed it as stress or maybe a pulled muscle. Then came the night that changed everything. Sarah was alone in her home office, working late on a presentation for a big client. The house was quiet, the kids asleep, and her husband out of town for work. As she stared at the screen, a sudden, intense pressure gripped her chest, stealing her breath. Her vision blurred, and her body felt heavy. She tried to stand, to call for help, but the pain intensified, radiating through her body like a wildfire. In that terrifying moment, Sarah's mind raced with thoughts of her children, her husband, and all the things she hadn't done. And then, something extraordinary happened, something that would change her life forever. Sarah's heart pounded like a drum out of rhythm, a deafening thud echoing in her chest as the pressure tightened its grip. Her breaths came in shallow, gasping spurts as if the air around her had turned too heavy to inhale. She clutched her desk, hoping the pain would subside, but it only grew more unbearable, radiating from her chest to her back and down her arms. Tears welled in her eyes as a wave of dizziness overtook her, and the room spun like a carousel gone rogue. Panic clawed at her mind, and a chilling thought pierced through the fog. "This is it. I'm dying." Fear wrapped around her like a suffocating shroud. She thought of her children sleeping just down the hall and the heartbreak of them waking up to find her gone. Regret surged, a torrent of unspoken words and missed moments. She hadn't taken her daughter on that promised trip to the amusement park. She hadn't told her husband how much she appreciated him in weeks. The emails, the deadlines, what did they even matter now? Her hands trembled as she fumbled for her phone. She managed to call 911 before her vision dimmed, her body slumping against the chair. Every second felt like an eternity as her consciousness teetered on the edge, her mind a whirl of fear, sorrow, and desperate prayers. Just as the darkness seemed poised to consume her, Sarah felt it, a faint warmth spreading across her chest, cutting through the agony like a soothing balm. The room, moments ago a cacophony of chaos, fell silent. Her racing heart slowed, and an inexplicable calm washed over her. A soft light began to glow in the corner of the room, subtle at first but growing steadily brighter. It wasn't harsh or blinding but gentle, like the first rays of dawn. In that light, Sarah could just make out a figure, not quite human yet profoundly familiar. A voice followed, not spoken aloud but resonating deep within her. It wasn't a booming command or a distant echo but a whisper of reassurance that filled her with peace. "You are not alone. Tears streamed down her face, but this time, they weren't from fear. Instead, they carried a strange, overwhelming sense of comfort. Sarah wanted to question it, to rationalize what she was experiencing. Am I hallucinating? Is this real? But the warmth wrapped around her like an embrace, and for the first time in years, she let go. She released the weight of her worries, her regrets, her fears. In that moment, Sarah didn't just hear the presence. She felt it, unconditional, infinite, and profoundly real. Though she couldn't move or speak, her heart seemed to do all the talking. Please don't let this be the end. I need more time. And as if in response, the light grew even brighter, enveloping her completely. She wasn't sure if she was alive, or if she'd crossed some invisible boundary between life and whatever lay beyond. But one thing was clear. She wasn't alone. Sarah found herself suspended in a strange, weightless state, as though gravity had lost its grip. Below her, she could see her body slumped in the chair, paramedics rushing into the room. It was surreal and unnerving, yet strangely comforting. There was no pain, no panic, only clarity. She noticed a shimmering tunnel of light forming before her, its edges pulsating with soft hues of gold and white. Drawn to it like a moth to a flame, she felt herself drifting closer. The light wasn't just bright, it was alive. It radiated a warmth that didn't merely touch her skin but seeped into her very essence, filling her with a profound sense of peace. At the tunnel's end stood a figure, radiant and serene. It wasn't a face she recognized, yet it felt more familiar than her own. The figure wasn't bound by physicality. It shimmered and shifted, a blend of light, love, and energy. Its presence spoke volumes without uttering a single word. When it finally communicated, its voice echoed directly within her, bypassing the constraints of language. You are loved beyond measure. Your journey isn't over. Sarah felt overwhelmed, tears forming not from sadness, but from an inexplicable sense of belonging. The figure's words didn't just reassure her. They awakened something dormant, a forgotten truth about herself, about life, about purpose. In that instant, she understood how interconnected everything was, how her actions rippled through the lives of others. Visions began to flood her mind. Her daughter graduating, her husband laughing, and the countless small, seemingly insignificant moments of love and connection that truly made life meaningful. But then came the moment of reckoning. The light around her dimmed slightly, and she realized she had to make a choice. The divine presence seemed to step back, allowing her the space to decide. To stay in this peaceful realm, where the burdens of earthly life melted away, was tempting. She felt no pain, no fear, only serenity. Yet, as she lingered, Sarah felt a tug, like a tether gently pulling her back toward the physical world. The choice wasn't simple. To return meant pain, uncertainty, and the heavy responsibilities she had momentarily left behind. To stay meant releasing it all and stepping into eternal peace. The figure's voice returned, tender but firm. Your story is still being written. There are lives you must touch, lessons you must teach, and love you must give. The choice is yours, but know this: whatever you choose, you are never alone. Sarah's heart ached with longing as she thought of her family. Her daughter's bright smile flashed before her eyes, followed by her husband's steady support. The thought of leaving them unspoken, unresolved, was unbearable. I'm not ready to leave them, she whispered, unsure if she was speaking aloud or if her thoughts alone carried weight here. The light brightened, embracing her like a warm blanket. The divine figure didn't speak again, but its presence conveyed approval, love, and an unspoken promise. You'll find your strength. With that, the tether pulling her toward life grew stronger, more insistent. Sarah felt herself falling, or perhaps rising, toward her body, the warmth of the divine still lingering in her soul. As the light faded, she took a deep, shuddering breath, her eyes fluttering open to the anxious faces of the paramedics around her. Her body was weak, trembling, but her spirit felt stronger than ever. She was alive, and she knew it was for a reason. The sudden rush of air into Sarah's lungs was both a blessing and a shock. Her body jerked as if someone had reignited her soul. She opened her eyes slowly, greeted by the frantic sounds of paramedics and the blurred shapes of worried faces hovering over her. "Welcome back, ma'am," one of them said, relief evident in his voice. "We thought we lost you for a moment there." Her body felt heavy, her chest tight, and her limbs weak, but her mind was sharper than ever. There was no confusion, no lingering fear. Instead, she was overwhelmed by a profound sense of gratitude, a feeling that she had been given a second chance. Though the physical discomfort was real, her head throbbed, her heart raced, and every breath felt like a challenge. Sarah was acutely aware of an inner force propelling her forward. It was as if a new fire had been lit within her, one that could not be extinguished. Doctors later remarked on how miraculous her survival was, especially given the severity of her condition. "It's nothing short of incredible," one doctor told her. "Most people don't come back from something like this." But Sarah knew there was more to it than luck or medical intervention. She felt an unshakable certainty that something greater had intervened, a force that wanted her to live, to thrive, to fulfill her purpose. Even as she lay in the hospital bed, surrounded by the hum of machines and the murmurs of visitors, Sarah could still feel the warmth of the divine light within her. She replayed the encounter in her mind, grasping onto every detail, the ethereal figure, the tunnel of light, and the words that had reshaped her understanding of life. The last moments before her return were vivid, etched into her memory like a sacred text. As the light began to fade and she felt herself pulled back to her physical body, the figure had leaned closer, its radiance dimming but its presence no less powerful. "Remember," it had said, its voice resonating like a melody, "you are here for a reason. Let love guide you, and let faith keep you strong. You have more to do than you know." Those words echoed in her heart as she began her recovery. Despite the medical challenges and physical therapy she faced, Sarah found herself healing faster than anyone expected. Her doctors were astonished at her progress, but Sarah wasn't. It wasn't just her body that was mending, it was her spirit. The encounter had filled her with a clarity and strength she'd never known. She felt deeply connected to her purpose, to her family, and to the world around her. Every sunrise was a gift, every small victory a testament to the second chance she had been given. Sarah's heart swelled with a newfound appreciation for life. She knew her journey ahead would not be without challenges, but now she faced them with unwavering faith and a sense of divine companionship. The presence she had felt during her near-death experience was still with her, not as a physical being, but as a guiding force, reminding her every day, "You are loved, you are strong, and you are here to make a difference." The Sarah who emerged from the near-death experience was not the same woman who had walked into it. Before, her days had been consumed by a relentless chase for success, an obsession with to-do lists, and a neglect of the quieter, more meaningful aspects of life. Now, every breath she took felt sacred. She found joy in the simplest things, sunlight streaming through her window, the laughter of her children, the rustling of leaves on a breezy afternoon. Where once she had measured her worth by accomplishments and accolades, she now valued presence, love, and connection. Her priorities shifted drastically. Work was no longer the central axis of her existence. Instead, she began carving out time for her family and for herself. She started prioritizing her health, not out of fear but out of gratitude for the second chance she had been given. Emotionally, Sarah was a different person. There was a calmness in her now, a steady peace that radiated even in the face of challenges. She had become more empathetic, able to see beyond her own struggles to the invisible battles others were fighting. Instead of reacting with frustration or impatience, she responded with understanding and compassion. What surprised her most was her newfound courage. The fear that had once kept her from chasing her dreams or standing up for what she believed in had melted away. Having faced the edge of life itself, the trivial anxieties of her past seemed insignificant. She was determined to live boldly, guided by the conviction that her life had purpose. Sarah realized early in her recovery that her experience was not meant to be kept to herself. The encounter with the divine had ignited a fire within her to share her story, not for attention but to inspire hope in others. Her first step was writing a journal, pouring her emotions and memories onto the page. What began as a personal exercise soon transformed into a blog, where she shared not only her near-death experience but the lessons it had taught her. Her words resonated deeply with readers, who reached out to her with their own stories of struggle, faith, and transformation. Soon, Sarah found herself speaking at local events, schools, and even hospitals. She became an advocate for spiritual and emotional well-being, encouraging others to listen to their bodies, trust their instincts, and never ignore the small signs that life gives us. Her relationship with the divine deepened in ways she hadn't thought possible. She began to embrace the signs and synchronicities that she had once dismissed as coincidence. Random acts of kindness, perfectly timed encounters, or a sudden feeling of clarity. To her, these were reminders that the presence she had felt in the otherworldly realm was still with her, guiding her steps. Sarah's transformation was not without challenges, but she faced them with an unshakable faith. She had been given a second chance, and she vowed to live every moment of it with purpose and gratitude. And in sharing her story, she realized something profound. By helping others find light in their own darkness, she was fulfilling the very purpose she had been sent back to achieve. Every morning, as Sarah opened her eyes to a new day, her first thought was one of gratitude. She no longer took the simple act of waking up for granted. The vivid memory of her encounter with the divine was etched into her soul, and it shaped every decision she made. She often spoke about the warmth she felt during her near-death experience, the calming presence that had embraced her when she felt most alone. To honor that presence, Sarah began her days with a quiet moment of reflection. Whether through prayer, meditation, or writing in a gratitude journal, she acknowledged the miracle of her survival and the guidance she believed was still with her. Her gratitude wasn't limited to her private moments. Sarah immersed herself in her community, volunteering at local shelters and organizing events to support mental and spiritual well-being. She saw these actions as a way to pay forward the love and mercy she had received. Sarah's life had become a testament to the power of transformation. She was no longer the person she had been before the event, rushed, disconnected, and focused solely on the tangible aspects of life. Now, she lived with a sense of purpose that extended far beyond herself. Her ongoing journey was one of continuous growth. She embraced challenges as opportunities to learn and leaned into moments of uncertainty with faith that she was being guided. Every setback, every triumph, and every quiet moment carried a deeper meaning. Her belief in unseen forces only grew stronger with time. She saw signs everywhere. A butterfly landing on her hand, a stranger's kind words, or a sudden feeling of peace in moments of doubt. To Sarah, these were reminders that the divine presence she had encountered during her near-death experience was still walking beside her. As she reflected on her journey, Sarah often said, "I don't know why I was chosen to come back, but I know it wasn't by chance. It's my responsibility to make this life meaningful, to share love, and to trust the plan that is unfolding." And so, she continued to walk forward with an open heart and an unwavering faith, living each day as a celebration of the second chance she had been given.